evidence that the man's description matched that of Vince. And the workman's statements were enough to cement his belief. Now, the guest had reportedly turned to the workman and said, I don't like what you're doing to my studio. I want you to leave. Then he vanished into the wall. Even after the renovations, much of Vince's original studio remains, and, it was a very, some of the studio stuff that he built was still there, which, gave it the history effect that he still owned it. Now today, Culver's studio remains one of the biggest lots in town, and maybe Thomas in spirit can find a little peace in that. Who knows? We're going to travel on to North Carolina, and we'll talk about the ghost of Nell Cropsey. And on the night of November 20th, 1901, a young North Carolina woman named Nell Cropsey, she vanished from her family's home in Elizabeth City. Now, after a frantic search, as you all can imagine, that lasted more than a month, Nell's body was discovered floating in a nearby river, and they found that she had been brutally murdered. Now, the story of Nell Cropsey remains one of the strange tales of murder in the state's history, and perhaps the unanswered questions that still surround the case are the reason why Nell's ghost still haunts her family home today. We will likely never know what happened to Nell Cropsey. That's been unsolved all these years. But in the evening in 1901, all we do know is that she vanished after 11 p.m. from her front porch, where she had been talking with a man named Jim, and perhaps this is the reason why her spirit refuses to rest. For the past century, those who have lived in the former Cropsey home have reported strange occurrences. Lights going off and on, doors open and shut, water rushes from the sink even when no one turns on the handle. And there is also strange, cold gusts of wind that blow through the house without any explanation. Some reports also include sightings of a pale young woman who has been seen walking across empty rooms. People passing by on the street have even seen the same pale figure walking past upstairs windows. One resident claimed to recognize Nell when this woman woke and she saw the murdered girl standing at the front of her bed one night. So how horrific would that actually be if you woke up and saw the ghost of the lady in your room? And I think, as far as holiday hauntings, I think that when it should be a time of gathering and stuff happens abruptly or tragically, I think sometimes people may not realize that they have died, and they also stay around because one moment they were having a happy time and then the next moment there they are. I think sometimes people don't realize they've passed on, and then they're just there for years and years and years, or until someone helps them along. And with that, we will be right back after this short break with more Ghost Talk. You're listening to Ghost Talk Radio on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
23 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to Ghost Talk Radio. With me as your host, Shelly Robinson. And if you just tuned in, I invite you all to join me in our interactive chat at WBHM-DB.com, where you can ask me any questions you might have or share any of the stories you may have regarding tonight's topic, holidays and hauntings, which we're actually focusing on Thanksgiving since it was just yesterday. If you missed the first part of the show, no worries. You can catch the full show archive on Spreaker, Google Play, iTunes, and iHeartRadio. Now, this next one, it is just full of drama. And, I guess that's like any families. They have drama times too. This one here, on November 23rd, 1910, this American-born homeopathic physician, and he was also a salesman, his name was Hoiday Crippen, and so he was just known as simply Dr. Crippen. Well, he was hanged at Pentonville Prison in London for the murder of his wife. Okay, so that is horrific in itself. Now, his wife's name was Cora. Now, he had the dubious distinction, you're not going to believe this, of being the first criminal to be captured with the aid of wireless communications way back then. Yes, believe it. Crippen, he was born in Coldwater, Michigan in September 1862. And, I just said that he was hanged in England. Okay, so the story starts to thicken. Dr. Crippen, he had such a questionable past regarding his marriages, that's for sure. His first wife was named Charlotte, and she died of a stroke in 1892. Now, he qualified as a homeopathic doctor by this time, and Crippen started to practice in New York, where in 1894, he married his second wife, Cora. Now, Cora used the stage name as Belle Elmore. Okay, so she was trying to become an actress, and she would be music hall singer, and she had some drama of her own, actually. She openly had affairs with other men. Needless to say, their marriage was not a happy one, as you can imagine. So, in 1894, Dr. Crippen started working for a homeopathic pharmaceutical company, and 3 years later, he and his wife moved to England, that was in 1899. Now, Crippen lost his job for spending too much time managing his wife's stage career, which that was a bad thing. And the next good thing for him, he became a manager of an institute for the deaf. And this is where he met this gal named Ethel. She was a young typist, and he met her around 1903. Okay, so no one knows when their affair actually began, but it is known that she was his mistress by 1905. And in that same year, the Crippens moved into a house on Comden Road, and they began taking in lodgers to supplement Dr. Crippen's income. Now, after Cora, his wife, started an affair with one of the lodgers, Dr. Crippen began sleeping with Ethel. Now, They had a party at their house, January 31st, 1910, and his wife, Cora, disappeared. Now, Dr. Crippen, he claimed that she had returned to America and then later added that she had died and been cremated in California. So no one knew any better. Meanwhile, his lover, Ethel, remember, he met her at his job place. She moved into the house on Camden Road, and she openly started wearing Cora's clothes and jewelry. So questions started arising. Why didn't she take her clothes and jewelry with her, for one? So everybody became suspicious. And then the police were alerted from Cora, one of Cora's friends, that she'd disappeared. Now, the Crippen house, it was searched at this time then, and nothing was found. Now, Crippen and Ethel, they fled in a panic to Brussels, and then they boarded a ship to Canada. Their disappearance led the police at Scotland Yard to perform another 3 searches of the house. Now, during the 4th and final search, they found the remains of a human body buried under the brick floor in the basement. The corpse, it was identified by a piece of skin from the abdomen. However, folks, this is quite shocking. The head, limbs, and the skeleton were never recovered. Meanwhile, Dr. Crippen and Ethel were crossing the Atlantic on the Montrose, which was a ship, and Ethel disguised herself as a boy, if you could believe that. Now, the captain of the ship, which was Henry Kendall, he recognized the fugitives, and just before steaming out of range of the land-based transmitters that they had on the boat, he had someone send a wireless telegram to the British authorities, and it said, "Have strong suspicions that Crippen, London cellar murderer, and accomplice are among passengers. Mustache taken off, growing beard. Accomplice dressed as a boy. Manner and build, undoubtedly a girl." So could you imagine? Because back in then times, I don't think there was